Wilson Tarpe Jr. here for The Focus in New York City, New York at Samsung 837 for the 2017 WNBA Draft. It's a very deep draft class. This is one of the most interesting off seasons the league's had in a while with so much movement. Obviously, we know one of the bigger pieces, Elena Delle Donne being moved to Washington. We had the pieces in Washington that were moved to a couple other places. We had Odyssey Sims moved out of Dallas over to LA. So all those off-season moves were going to play a factor on today, which is draft day. Going number one, which is no shock, I feel like people knew that for a couple years. Kelsey Plum from Washington, the dynamic guard. She was named the best player in women's college basketball. She's the all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball as well. Rightfully so, she goes number one. She goes to the San Antonio Stars. She'll be joining now a trio of very, very special guards in Mariah Jefferson, Kayla McBride, Kelsey Plum, and they also selected Nia Coffey in the first round as well, which was very big because now you have a little bit of that Golden State vibe. And again, I'm not saying that they're Steph, they're Clay, but just simply in terms of scores, with that 5'2", that Swiss Army player, where Coffey can move all around your floor. She's virtually positionless at times. In stretches, you probably can get away with her at the 5, but definitely 2 through 4, she can definitely guard 2 through 4, and she did mostly everything for that Northwestern team. So it's a very, very good pickup. For the hometown, in terms of the Maryland Terrapins, very big night. Two of the most decorated players in their organization at that school, Walker-Kimbrough Walker and Brianna Jones. Shatori goes number 6 to the Washington Mystics. That is something, if you've been following us along this year over at My Mountain Sports, I've been throwing that pick out for quite a while. I felt like that was definitely a pick, a direction that Coach Mike Tebow would go, especially after getting Delle Donne and moving some of the other players out, where the type of offense they love is all about spacing the floor. Now you got EDD. You can move her at the 5. You can move Emma Mieseman around too. Play with that type of lineup. You throw Shatori in there, whether she's on the floor with a group of starters or coming off the bench. She at 5'11" with very long arms, quick feet on the defensive end, and the all-time three-point leader at Maryland University in College Park. That's one heck of a piece to have. You have other sharpshooters. You have Ivory Latta. You have Taylor Hill. Emma Mieseman led the league. Delle Donne was top 5. Not to mention Christy Tolliver. That is a whole lot of three-point shooters for one team. Washington had one of the better offenses in the league for the past couple of years. That was without EDD. That was without Christy Tolliver. That is now, hopefully, with a now healthy Ivory Latta and bringing on a young player like Shatori should only help. There's a lot of youth in Washington as well, and Shatori fits a couple different needs. It's a fun piece to play with. For her fellow teammate, Brianna Jones, gonna talk about where she went. Maryland's season ended in Connecticut. That's where her professional career will begin. Brianna Jones she's going to Connecticut to hopefully be that dominant piece inside for the Sun. They have a lot of young players in Connecticut. You have an Agumake in Connecticut. So that's a pairing that I look very forward to, pairing those two together, because now you have a chance to have a very young and very talented front court where Bree can score. She can score. Chene, I believe it's Chene that's in Connecticut. I hope I'm not wrong. And she can score as well. So you have two dynamic post players. Rachel Banham, if everybody wants to remember who she is, she had 60 last year in Minnesota. She can put the ball in the basket, folks. So that's a very nice group of young players there as well. Also in the top 10, that was very interesting. You had Tori Jankoska going to Chicago Sky. All she did at Michigan State was put up threes and knock them down. That's a very big piece. Chicago's trying to move on. This is life without EDD right now. Also to Chicago, Elena Coates. They have a lot of talented young bigs in Chicago. It'll be interesting to see how they work that out. Elena Coates is that other big on South Carolina. She was the first of South Carolina's trio to get drafted this year. She missed the Final Four, the championship, due to a leg injury, but she's on her way back in terms of rehab. She's a very big piece, and it's probably someone, I feel like it's someone Chicago's going to plan to build around. It'll be interesting to see how they play that balancing act with her, Steph Dolson, Amani Boyette, in terms of figuring out who can play together or even who stays and who goes. Also in the top 10, you got Alexis Jones, Sydney Weiss. Both of those players are going to the teams that represented the WNBA, that represented the WNBA Finals matchup. You got Alexis going to the Minnesota Lynx. the Lynx, we know about their talented, that historic, that Hall of Fame trio they have in Whalen, Moore, and Augustus. I'm sorry, make that a quartet, and Sylvia Fowles as well. Building that bench, throwing more youth. You have to get younger. You have to get better. You have to make sure that that second unit is good, and that's something I believe they did by selecting Alexis Jones, Sydney Wise going to the Sparks. It's about the same thing. You have enough talented players there. It's about making sure that depth is correct. And we talked to Candace Parker last year, beginning of the season, and she felt like that was the most deeper team that Sparks had, and it looks like that's something they don't want to see end anytime soon. Another South Carolina player, Alicia Gray, goes to Dallas. Evelyn Akator goes to Dallas as well. They picked 3 and 4. So Dallas, after moving Odyssey Sims, trying to continue that rebuild there and figure out what pieces are going to be around Miss Skylar Diggins. That's pretty much it in the first round. I'm sorry, Antonio Davis' daughter, Kayla Davis, also from South Carolina, in a trade with New York that happened during the offseason. They selected Kayla Davis. It's another good piece. Again, Dallas looking for those versatile pieces. You got Aerial Powers in the front court. They did a really good job of kind of moving a young, very talented player with superstar potential in Sims and getting a good haul for her. Obviously, we don't know exactly what all these young players are going to be for a couple years, but it's not bad to see kind of a quick return on your investment this early. So here at the WNBA Draft, I'm going to sign off, but just want to go ahead and remind you all, this is a very, very deep draft class. We talk about the men's class being deep a lot. This is a very talented class. A lot of good teams got better. A lot of teams that weren't as good, that were looking to get much better so they could compete. I feel they either did that in today's draft or made a step in the right direction. For more coverage, head over to My Mind on Sports and to check out the rest of the draft. We'll have draft wrap-ups there and for more one-on-one player interviews. Wilson Tarpe signing off in New York.